Hi, everyone. Lindsay LaShell, Open Lines Marketing. Today, I want to talk about what happens when your delegation is busted. What happens when it doesn't work? Because there's a few really sort of predictable responses. There's things that are going to feel familiar to all of us. And I think it's worth naming them so that we can start to understand, pull it apart, start to understand what the opportunities are to get different results, right? So as the delegator, as the asker, right? What happens when you didn't get what you asked for? How do you feel? And how do you react? And how does that make the doer feel? And throughout the series, I'm going to use personal examples and professional ones because they're not terribly different, right? So in a personal context or in a professional context. So I'll give you an example. I have a young stepdaughter and she's learning to do lots of different things. Let's just say, hypothetically, that she was washing some dishes. And I go to check on what she's done and I see there's a whole bunch of dishes in the clean dish rack that are not clean, right? So what are my options? I can yell at her and tell her to be more careful and pay more attention, or even just scold or correct, right? Tell her she's doing it wrong. I can put all those dirty dishes back on the dirty side and tell her they're not done and that she needs to do it again, right? I can move her out of the way, move the dirty dishes into the sink, and then do it myself right there in front of her, right? Or I can wait till she goes to bed and then do it behind her back. I gotta say, I think these are all terrible solutions, right? Because think about it, what happens? If I yell at her, she's gonna feel powerless. I'm gonna feel powerless. It's awful, right? If I send it back, she's gonna feel like she wasted her time doing it the first time. If I redo it behind her back, that's terrible for me. That's where we get that, if you want something done right, garbage. But if I redo it in front of her, then she feels belittled as well. There's not a good option in that case. And so I really want to dial back, put us in that situation. I feel like we've all been here in a work environment, right? Where something gets sent back, do it again, do it over. That feels like at school too, right? Or a boss yells at you because they're disappointed because they got it wrong, or they redo it in front of everybody, right? There's all kinds of ways that an asker can be reasonably disappointed. I want to be clear about this. I'm not sitting here saying it's okay that the dishes weren't clean. That's not my point. My point is to think about how we deal with that situation when the delegator doesn't get what they wanted, when the doer doesn't perform. I want to really just sort of think about how that makes us feel, and how as delegators, and how it makes them feel as the doers or the delegatees when we respond that way, right? That whole system feels bad. And so I really want to just take a second. In fact, in the class, again, I'll link to it in the notes, but in my online course, there's actually an exercise that's just do a little journaling and think about what it feels like when you try to deliver something and it's not as requested. You thought you were doing the best you could, right? Somehow you missed the mark. And as a result, the reaction of the delegator, the reaction of the asker, can have a huge impact on your relationship, right? So I imagine that most of the folks who are watching this video are askers, are delegators, are entrepreneurs and leaders. So this is my just sort of reminder, take a beat and remember what it was like the last time you delivered something that had to get redone. And how did that happen for you and how did it feel? And just as an entry point to think about how we can be better askers. Okay, that's it for today. Thanks for hanging with me. I'll link to that course in the notes so that you guys can can have that available, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thank you.